This is Israeli Technology Founders Speak, a podcast of conversations with successful Israeli high-tech and biotech entrepreneurs. With your host, Avraham Hermon. Baruch Halpert is a serial entrepreneur, the CEO and executive chairman of Electriq, an Israeli startup that turns hydrogen gas into a safe, storable powder, like instant coffee, but for clean energy. No pipelines, no pressurized tanks, just add water and get power anywhere. Avraham sat down with Baruch to discuss how he got involved with Electriq, his previous companies, how he dealt with a failed idea, tips for tech founders, and much more. This podcast is a creation of J.M.B. Davis Ben David, an intellectual property law firm serving clients around the world. You have great innovations. We keep them safe. It's not enough to just have a great startup idea or innovation. If you don't legally protect your innovations, products, and brand, anyone can claim them as their own. We keep your great innovation secure. Learn more by going to jmbdavis.com. That's jmbdavis.com.
Thank you, Baruch Halpert, CEO of Electriq. That's Electriq with a Q at the end. I wanted to hear from you. What problem does Electriq solve?
So basically, Electriq knows how to store hydrogen in a very effective manner in powder, in solid form. So basically, we solve a lot of the problems that conventional hydrogen presents, mainly compressed hydrogen and liquefied hydrogen, which is safety issues, energy density issues, which Electriq by far simplifies. We can store 3 to 5 times more energy in our powder than compressed hydrogen, than conventional compressed hydrogen cylinders. And you can store our powder for 5 years. It's like UHT hydrogen, UHT milk.
I see.
So you can store it in a bag, come 5 years later, open the bag, and you'll have the same content of hydrogen. And you can put it there under that desk over there. And as long as it's sealed, there will not be any degradation of the material. It's like white powder. Think of a washing powder. If you come and use washing powder 5 years later, will you have any degradation? Of course not. So same thing.
Okay. So your hydrogen powder is going to be used at a site where they need hydrogen for making electricity?
Yes, where they need the best utilization of these technologies for long-term backup power, where you don't have accessible access or where you cannot deliver hydrogen in any other way, and you need autonomous power. Think of like where you have all these floods and other natural disasters like snowstorms that you don't have access for a couple of days, then our systems could be very effective.
Like use in place for emergency electricity.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like factories, hospitals,
cell towers, microgrid operations, everything that needs backup power for 48 hours and longer.
Tell me a little bit about how the idea was born. Whose idea was it? Where did it come from?
I'll open the brackets about the technology first. So we utilize a material that is called borohydrides. Hydrides were initially invented as an offshoot of the Manhattan Project as a reductive agent. It's a specialty materials, the borohydrides, and potassium borohydride, KBH4, the material that we are specifically working for, is used as a reductive agent and is well known in the industry as a specialty material. The problem that we solved was how to extract the hydrogen from the powder, which was quite demanding and intensive. So the idea was not new. There were a couple of iterations of the project. The current iteration started in 2013 by a scientist. He didn't emerge from any university, and a bit of money was invested through an incubator. And I came about it when I was presented with the opportunity to invest in it in 2016. And it was very nascent, very early stage, but some things were achieved.
So before that, you came from what sort of background?
I started as an oil and gas entrepreneur. Back in the mid-90s, I had an oil and gas license in the Israel Valley, which I was, beginner's luck. I sold it after 9 months to an American group that bought it off me. I was super lucky. I had a group in Texas that basically worked for me, and they found me a buyer. After that, I started with oil and gas. That's where I learned how to raise money on pure stories.
Interesting.
In oil and gas, you need to be a super promoter to raise money because you want to get people excited about something they cannot see.
Right.
And
there's no real product.
There's nothing tangible. You're promoting a pure idea. Now think about it. I needed to promote an oil and gas project in Israel in the mid-90s before you had the offshore discoveries for something that is not tangible and it's not known as a country that has any oil and gas.
Even though we're in the Middle East.
Exactly. So this is how I started my career. And I was very lucky. The company that bought it off me, the people were extremely good people. One of them, his father was the founder of Texas Oil and Gas. So he was second generation to the oil and gas. And he said, I'll take you and I'll learn how to promote oil prospects. And we toured the world for 2 years, raising money only for oil and gas projects. And I learned so much. I visited 400 to 500, 600 asset managers, independent, fully discretionary asset managers all over the world. Switzerland, England, France, the US, of course. So very quickly you understand what investors are looking for and what are the inflection points where they'll be amenable to invest money.
Let's see.
And in the end, they decided not to drill this prospect because they had other more interesting prospects. One of them became a major oil and gas company, Ultra Petroleum, in Wyoming, tight sense. And then I spotted the opportunity of E-Trade in the early days of the internet, and I got E-Trade.
And E-Trade is a global...
E-Trade is the online broker that was one of the first players in the market for online trading to take to a flat commission.
Right. So people that want to invest in stocks without a real live broker.
Exactly. And, everybody knows Robinhood, but E-Trade was the version 1.0
I see.
of Robinhood. Very entrepreneurial, approaching them, getting them, making sure nobody gets it before me. Super interesting. Completely different domain expertise. It was finance, internet, and it was in the days that, I knew it wasn't IT, but I didn't know what it was. So it was to take IT people and make them internet people. And I raised, first money came from Shlomo Kalish and his investors, really well-known investors. We had a group of high-quality investors, some of the people that, he raised the money and they did extremely well. I don't want to name names, but really well-known people. And then I did E-Trade for a couple of years. And then after Cardan invested, I left the day-to-day management to them, Cardan Technologies. And then I went into a period that I was looking for my next project. I didn't find one. I was there for about 2 years. In these 2 years, I was looking for all kinds of things. Make a long story short, it took me a while and I got back to the entrepreneurial bug. And I did a stint of few companies, one after another, in the space of medical device, as executive chair. Nanotechnology started as executive chair and CEO. And the science came from Weizmann, fascinating stuff. And there we sold the company after 2 years. From the time I got it, it was a real turnaround. And then for like 2 years, I was the executive chair of the public company that invested in IP related companies from Hadassah. There we did very quick realization of value from these companies. A super interesting company in cell therapy and groundbreaking science for cancer treatments. Then I came across this opportunity of Electriq as an investor and started this ride.
So back to where we started in terms of Electriq. So you said that they had an idea. We were talking about how the idea was born. So they had this idea and they got you on as an investor. What happens next?
So basically we invested on the premise that this thing will go into cars. It made a lot of sense the way they presented it, meaning extracting the hydrogen from the powder was solved. It involved a very innovative catalyst from non-precious metals, which should have made it very affordable, unlike platinum or palladium, which are the well-known materials for catalysts. And the only part that was not resolved was reducing the price of the powder. That was the premise that we invested. 6 to 9 months after we invested about $5 million USD. All hell broke loose because suddenly we saw that the idea about recycling the powder doesn't work. And then we did a prototype for a Chinese client and the catalyst simply fell apart when it touched, when it was in interaction with the powder. The powder is not just a powder. You mix the powder with water and that creates a solution. And this solution, you extract the hydrogen. It looks like milk. When you mix the powder with the water, the powder is white, and then all hell breaks loose. That's basically where my experience came into play. In situations when things don't work, you have two options. Either to try and solve things internally or raise the flag, say, guys, we have a problem and we need to address it now.
So you've already invested a lot of money and this technology is not working. So how do you react to that? Is it time to double down, get more into it, restart?
At the time, I lived in England and it was here in Israel. So I started coming here on a weekly basis to do a real drill down to what works, what doesn't work. We invested in early 18. By the fourth quarter of 2018, I knew something is wrong. And then I started paying a lot of attention and I started telling the investors, my co-investors, look, I think we have issues. We need to really see what we have and what we don't have. So what I did, I started sitting with the then CEO and the technology that the CTO was ostensibly the source of knowledge. But I saw he can't deal with the pressure and I saw that he doesn't have answers for me. So when I saw that the guy is not addressing the problems, I said, okay, he cannot help me. And I saw that the CEO didn't have domain expertise per se in the science. So he basically lived off what the CTO and ostensibly the inventor told him. I saw that between these two people, I will not get much progress. I also knew the members of the team. So I was not impressed with any of them. They were good people, but not the right people to solve the problem. So back then when we had started having other problems, we were about 25, 26 people. I had to fire 2/3 of them in the span of 2-3 months. That's very painful. Letting people go, it's always super difficult. But cash was tight. By then we spent most of the money that we raised. I met with all the big investors in person and told them, guys, I'm not going to ask you for a penny more before I know what we have, if we have what we have, and whether it's worthwhile spending more money. Then I rolled up my sleeve. I brought all my prior experience from the nanotechnology company and from biotechnology pro and everything that malfunctioned at one point to see how I fix it. But the key was transparency with myself and with the investors. You don't sit on bad news, you share.
So that was encouraging for the investors that you had someone on board who was taking care of the company.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For investors, it's very reassuring to know that you have somebody that is willing to tackle the problems and to tell you things as they are, even if it's not comfortable for you.
How do you get to the point where you make that switch for the goal and for the product? You were focusing on one direction, automotive.
Yeah.
And then you get to this point where you realize that's not the way to go.
As part of this sanity check that I did at the time, I looked again on all the financial models that were presented to me. And very quickly, I understood that the foundations and the assumptions that they were based upon are not sustainable based on what I found out. So I said, okay, this goal of automotive is not realistic. So the second thing was to look at the generator market, which was much more correlated to what the technology and the price point can do. We changed from position to position regarding the output of the system. But the most important decision that I made at that time was basically the way the technology was presented to me was it is going to be like fuel. So you manufacture the powder, you mix it with water, and then you deliver it to the client like fuel. But then we saw that there is separation of phases between the powder and the water. All this idea does not hold water. So what we did is said, we're going to deliver the powder to the client and then mix it with water. That was a paradigm shift. After we decided about this paradigm shift, one of the team members suggested, we decided we want to present it in a demonstrator. We did a 3 kilowatt demonstrator. That we did it over the corona. During 2020, we started it. By the end of the year, it was done. And that was one of the most important decisions I made because when the year ended and corona was over, we had something to show the world to.
So you switched from a company that's selling a powder to a company that's selling more than the powder, right?
Selling systems that consume the powder.
The powder alone couldn't be used.
Powder alone could not be used without finishing the catalytic process, which we finished successfully. That was one of the major problems that we had. The catalyst didn't perform. By the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, we fixed all the problems of the catalyst.
Okay. So these problems encouraged you guys to develop new solutions. Did they lead to intellectual property?
Yeah. When we started investing, there was one family of patents. At the height, we reached 14 patent families.
Mm-hmm. So that's a big investment in patents.
Millions. With very good IP lawyers here in the US. Did a phenomenal job.
So let's talk about where you are now and what hurdles do you have now to deal with?
Like in every good startup, you have the roller coaster ride. After raising over 30 million USD, we came into our wilderness years. We're very close to seal a very big financing round in the end of 23. Major strategic Dutch investor, 25 million euro round at a very good valuation. But after the war started, they did a U-turn.
Wow.
That was very painful. And I think, in 23, the market was already super difficult in terms of funding conditions, not only in Israel, but worldwide. It was a tough year. And as an experienced entrepreneur, I thought I was, finding the Dutch, I'll get this done over the hurdle as well. But the war really put things in a completely different stage. And we had to start cutting down, sizing down. And unfortunately, the company went into administration beginning of 25.
Mm-hmm.
But the same group of investors bought it back from administration. And now we are raising more money to get the company back. We use the time in order to get the technology to a product. And now the product that we want to get on track is a 5 kilowatt product, long-term duration, as I earlier alluded to it. And so this startup took me to places that I haven't been before.
Interesting journey.
Yeah, challenging. I can tell you that in between, we won many awards. We won the World Economic Forum Award for Technology Pioneers, the famous Davos Forum.
Wow.
That's, I attended a couple of their annual meetings, which is super interesting. You get to meet very interesting people, innovators and entrepreneurs. We won the very prestigious Masik Foundation Award for urban decarbonization.
Wow.
We won that fierce competition. We were awarded by the Amazon Award. I presented with this company, in Startup Nation Central invited us to the gathering in Morocco. I think I was party to at least 30 or 40 public speaking engagements all over the world.
Wow.
Israel was hardly the focus. Israel has a lot of aspirations, but it's almost impossible to raise money here for deep tech, for what we do. It's not something that Israelis want to invest in. It takes a long time to develop this technology.
Once it's developed, this could be revolutionary.
Once it's developed, the barrier for entry, super tough. It's challenging. You need to be a real, let's put it, what I call is constructive naivety in order to step into this type of ventures. Why constructive naivety? Because you have to be naive enough to think that you can do it, and constructive in the way that every time you tackle with problems, you solve them.
Right.
Every time it's a different type of problem. But the name of the game is problem solving.
Okay. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about tips that you will have for founders in the field, founders that are interested in starting up based on your journey.
I think the most important thing is to have a good team. To have a good team and to have people that tell you things as they are. Even if you don't like what you hear, you need to have honest people around you.
And you have to be willing to listen to them, right?
I'm a very good listener and I know how to cut my losses very quickly. I'll give you an example. With this company, we were invested in a route to manufacture the powder that was based on magnesium and solid phase reaction. And we invested almost 2 years and a couple of $100,000 to devise a new reactor, so to speak. Dr. Boaz Nitzan, the VP R&D, he joined in July of 21.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I see what they're trying to do, but I don't believe it will lead to anywhere. We spent about 800,000 shekels to the engineering company, which did what we asked them.
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's a money pit. I think we should stop it now. I said, what's the alternative, Boaz? We had another guy, Dr. Adi Abramovich, that said, you have to look at the original process, Brown Schlesinger, and optimize certain parts in it. Some people in the company looked at me and said, crazy, what are you doing? You don't have anything else. Why are you cutting this thing off? I said, look, we hired very good people. They came with things that we don't like. But look, we are 2 years, we're making circles around the block. We didn't get above 100, 200 grams. It's a dead end.
Right.
Let's call it spade.
That's an important lesson for people in the startup field.
I've done it. I'll give you another example. It's a startup in the biotech space. I will not name names, but there was a molecule that the company spent tens of millions of dollars, and it failed again, always in the same point. I was a board member of this company, but a very influential one. And together with another board member, non-Israeli, we sat at the board meeting and we changed the CEO that led the company for 6 or 7 years. He couldn't really get the company from where it was. And the new CEO was a young guy, and he came with a couple of alternatives. And remember, the old molecules were ostensibly on phase 2 already.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite advanced. It's clinical trials.
The company had invested a lot of money in it to get to phase 2.
Yeah. The new CEO came and says, well, we can go to molecule 107, but it's preclinical, it's this and that and that. And the board was made of very experienced people. Wanted to meet the middle ground. Let's keep the old molecule, spend some money on the new molecule, keep all our options open. And the other non-Israeli board member, I was the first one to speak. And I said, look, it's about time we kill off molecule 101 and 102. We only spend the money that we have in 107.
Mm-hmm.
I think 101 and 102 are old science. Mind you, I'm not a scientist. But I sat on enough meetings and I read my stuff. And this is a dead end. Waste of money. They looked at me like this. And then the other guy, which comes from the pharmaceutical industry, has a lot of credit, says, I second Baruch, what he said. Absolutely true. And then gave all the professional reasons. We basically swayed the board. And the company took on molecule 107. And that's the foundation of the company. They recently raised tons of money for clinical trials.
Okay, good.
In that molecule.
So the moral of the story is sometimes you have to, even if you've invested a lot in something, sometimes you have to know when to kill a project.
If you don't know how to do it, then your place is not in this industry. It's not in the tech industry.
Interesting.
And it's not failure. It's sanity check, reality check. That's what they expect us to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a failure. I think it's a progression. You have to learn from what you see. You can't ignore data. Don't ignore data.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where you see Electriq down the road. You get the first product out on the market, then what's next?
I think Electriq, if we play our cards right and we're lucky, I think Electriq could be a company that holds a whole vertical in the hydrogen storage in solid form. 10 years from now, it has system in all sizes, starting from 5 kilowatt to 1 megawatt.
Like a little power plant.
Yeah, with the right funding to get the price of the powders. The price per kilowatt hour will be $1. For anything to do with generators, that's the target price. That's the price of diesel today. So that's the goals. If we do that, then the company will be a robust company.
Interesting. Okay. So Baruch, thank you very much. I'm happy to have interviewed you and spoke to you about this interesting and groundbreaking technology. And hopefully we'll hear a lot from your company in the near future.
Thank you, Avraham. It was a pleasure giving some insights from my experience, and thank you for the pleasurable experience.
That was Baruch Halpert, the CEO and Executive Chairman of Electriq. We hope you enjoyed this episode. There are many more to come. Do you have a great innovation or startup idea? We'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us by going to our website, jmbdavis.com. And if you go to jmbdavis.com/startup, you'll see we have a special site specifically made for startups to help startups protect their innovations. Please be in touch with us and find out how we can help you. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode.